Get 3 months of local news for just 99 cents a month. You'll get unlimited access to the news you need to stay engaged and connected to your community. Visit duluthnewstribune.com/subscribe now to get 3 months of local news for only 99 cents a month.
Hello Northlanders, it's Monday, May 22nd. I'm Wyatt Buckner, the Duluth News Tribune Minute, presented by Minnesota Power Employees Credit Union.
The average MPECU member saves over $785 a year in better rates and lower fees. And with MPECU, every ATM is your ATM. With their free checking program, you get ATM fee reimbursements at any ATM anywhere in the U.S. Check out Minnesota Power Employees Credit Union's services online at mpecu.com or visit their offices in downtown Duluth, Arrowhead Road, or Miller Trunk Highway.
Now here's a look at today's headlines. A $3 billion tax bill backed by Democratic farmer labor lawmakers that cuts the Social Security income tax for many Minnesotans, provides new child tax credits, and returns part of the surplus to taxpayers as a one-time check is on its way to becoming law. Members of the Minnesota Senate on Sunday passed a bill containing what DFL lawmakers have described as historic tax relief. In the next 2 years, the tax bill creates $2 billion in cuts, $1 billion in new taxes, and $900 million or so on items like local government aid and property tax refunds. Backers said it will help reduce child poverty, possibly by 1/3. In the next 4 years, it would create $4 billion in tax relief and $2.2 billion in new taxes. The final tax bill passed the Senate on a 34-33 party line vote Sunday, after passing the House the night before on a 69-63 vote that was also along party lines. Minnesota will see billions in new taxes in addition to the cuts touted by DFLers, who hold full control of state government following the November elections. Next, it heads to the desk of Governor Tim Walz under a deal struck by Senate and DFL lawmakers over the past few weeks. Each chamber had a slightly different approach to taxes and smoothed out the differences in a joint committee. It includes $1.1 billion in one-time direct payments to more than 2.5 million Minnesota tax filers. Single filers earning up to $70,000 a year would get $260 checks. Joint filers earning up to $150,000 would get checks of $520. Households would get $260 for each dependent up to 3, for a maximum total of $1,300. Those checks are significantly smaller than the original base of $1,000 for single filers and $2,000 for joint filers proposed by Governor Tim Walz last year. It's also less than the amounts initially passed in the Senate and House tax bills. GOP lawmakers say the tax bill and other DFL-backed programs will create about $10 billion in new taxes in the next 4 years. While DFL lawmakers dispute the GOP's count, what's certain is that between the tax bill and other legislation like a new paid family and medical leave program, Minnesota will see billions in new taxes in addition to the cuts touted by DFLers. Republicans support a complete repeal of the Social Security income tax, as did 4 newly elected DFL senators, but ultimately the partial elimination was as far as tax committees were willing to go. DFLers were concerned about losing more revenue and said the state didn't need to eliminate the tax for the highest earners. Social Security income tax would be eliminated for about 3/4 of people who receive the benefit, Democrats said. The tax would be fully eliminated for single filers earning up to $78,000 and joint filers earning up to $100,000 a year. From that point, it would completely phase out at $118,000 for single filers and $140,000 for joint filers. It'll cost the state about $1.2 billion over the next 4 years. It'll affect more than 300,000 people receiving Social Security payments. More than $1.5 billion in new child tax credits would offer $1,750 per child with no limit on the number of children. Joint filers up to $35,000 a year would get the full credit. Past those income levels, the credit would phase out at higher levels depending on the number of children. Beyond the child tax credit, a K-12 education credit would offer $1,500 per child. Other items in the bill include $300 million in local public safety aid, hundreds of millions in property tax relief, and $80 million in local government aid for the next 2 years. Tribal governments would get $35 million. Minnesota is closer than ever to funding a long-sought passenger rail line between Duluth and the Twin Cities. House and Senate lawmakers have agreed on a final version of a transportation budget bill that includes $194.7 million for Northern Lights Express Rail. With just 2 full days left to conclude their business, they took up the bill in a joint committee and approved it late Saturday night, May 20th. The 266-page bill, which also contains new taxes and transportation spending, will have to pass the House and the Senate before it reaches the governor's desk to be signed into law. Under the current plan, NLX would use 152 miles of existing BNSF railway track and connect Target Field in downtown Minneapolis to the St. Louis County Depot in Duluth. Stops are planned in Coon Rapids, Cambridge, Hinckley, and Superior, Wisconsin. Sections of the track would be built alongside the main route so the passenger trains could move out of the way as freight trains move through. Passenger trains would travel about 90 miles per hour along the route. Advocates in the past have said service would likely start 3 years after securing government funding. Transportation officials estimate up to 750,000 people will ride the train in the first year of service. MnDOT estimates the fare would be about $30 to $35 for a one-way ticket. The Miller DeWan Foundation announced a new multi-phase initiative to combat unmet mental health service needs in the Duluth area during an event Thursday night. HopeX, or Hope Multiplied, will include a workforce expansion and create new programs to fill in the gaps of area mental health services, according to Tracy Marciniak, president of the Miller DeWan Foundation. While the foundation did not release specific details of action HopeX will take, officials said the program will be innovative and community-oriented. The global partners include the World Health Organization, George Washington University, the New School, and Zach Williams, mental health advocate, entrepreneur, and son of actor Robin Williams. Williams addressed foundation donors and the media at the Garden on Thursday, stating the Miller DeWan Foundation's plans have him excited for the partnership.
The good news is that the solutions and the care is there, but I really encourage folks to seek help when they feel like they're in crisis, even if they feel like they're on a path to ultimately becoming dysregulated and in crisis. Start finding ways through a process I call specifically mental hygiene, but really it involves identifying things relating to our diet and behavioral solutions, whether it involves fitness, mindfulness, therapy, community support models, and things like that. Find what works for you and double down on that.
Williams, who will be back in Duluth several times throughout the program's rollout, will help the foundation work on strategy, awareness, and messaging. He will be the featured speaker at the Miller DeWan Foundation's Art Cetera event in September. Now here's a look at your forecast, brought to you by the Superior Telegram's history podcast, Archive Dive.
Weather for the Duluth area today, looking at mostly sunny skies with highs around 60 degrees, dropping into the upper 40s tonight, and more sunshine for Tuesday and much warmer. Temperatures getting near 80 degrees. Breezy conditions and chances of showers and storms later that evening into Tuesday night. More sunshine for Wednesday. I'm Storm Tracker meteorologist Robert Pointer.
Thank you to Archive Dive for their support. The monthly history podcast, hosted by Superior Telegram reporter Maria Lockwood, dips into the archives of historic events, people, and places around Superior and Douglas County. You can find the latest episode of Archive Dive at superiortelegram.com or wherever you also get this podcast. Reporting for today's episode was done by Alex DeRozier and Laura Butterbrodt. Thank you for listening to the Duluth News Tribune Minute. Have a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.